at EJOLIVA111 at hotmail.com. It's EJOLIVA111 at hotmail.com. And you have any comments about the show, or you want to start a dialogue, whatever you want to do, just contact me at that email. And this week I'll be rereading from the Rogers and Situation in the Occupation Movement, May, June 1968 by Renee V&A, translated by Paul C. King and Lauren Goldner. And we'll be working on the chapter of the General Wildcat Strike. During the day of May 17th, the strike sent almost the entire metallurgical and chemical industries. Following the example of Renault and the workers of Berlier, Idiosata, Rome Poulenc, and Snecma decided to occupy their factories. Several railway stations were in the hands of the workers, and only a few trains still ran. The postal workers had already taken over the post offices. On the 18th, the strike hit Air France and the RATP. Having begun with some exemplary occupations in the provinces, the strike had extended to the Parisian region and then engulfed the entire country. From this moment on, even the unions could no longer fool themselves that this chain reaction of wildcats would not become a general strike. Spontaneously set in motion, the occupation movement had fought from the beginning all orders of control from the unions. At Renault headquarters wrote Le Mans on May 18th, the wildcat nature of the beginning of the movement was underlined at the May 13th strike, which had moderately supported in the provinces. It was seen as equally paradoxical that the center of the revolt was located precisely in a factory where, at the social level, there had been only routine and relatively minor conflicts. The test of the strike limited the unions to a rapid counteroffensive, which showed with a brutal clarity the natural function is going into capitalism in the factories. The trade union strategy had a single goal: to defeat the strike. In order to do this, the unions, with a long strike-breaking tradition, set out to reduce a vast general strike to a series of isolated strikes at the individual enterprise level. The CGT led the counteroffensive beginning on May 17th. The Central Council met and declared the action undertaken on the initiatives of the CGT and with the other trade union organizations had created a new situation and had taken on exceptional importance. This incredible lie is emphasized by the author. The strike was a success, but only to refuse any call for a general strike. Nevertheless, the workers everywhere voted for unlimited strike and occupation of the factories in order to take over a movement that threatened them directly. The bureaucratic organizations at first declared the workers' initiatives to face the growing autonomy of the proletariat. They therefore took over the strike committees, which immediately became federal police powers charged with isolating the workers in the factories and formulating their own demands in the name of the workers. While the picket lines of virtually all the factory gates, still under union orders, prevented the workers from speaking for themselves or to anyone else, and from hearing the most radical currents then coming to the fore, the union leadership assumed the task of reducing the movement to a program of strictly professional demands. The spectacle of bureaucratic opposition reached the point of parody when a newly de-Christianized CFDT attacked the CGT, which had rightly accused of limiting itself to wage demands, and proclaimed that beyond mere material demands, it is the problem of management and control of the enterprise which has been posed. This electoral bid by the Modernist trade union went so far as to propose self-management as the form of workers' power in the enterprise. This was followed by the spectacle of the two major guardians of false consciousness taking over the truth of their own lives. Segui, the Stalinist, attacked self-management as an empty formula that comes the priest emptying it of its real content. In fact, this quarrel of the ancients and the moderns over the best form of defense for bureaucratic capitalism was only a prelude to their fundamental agreement on the necessity for negotiations with the strike and management, with the state of management. On Monday, May 20th, the strike and the occupation became general, with the exception of just a few sectors which would shortly join the movement. By now, 6 million strikers. There would be 10 million in the days to follow. CGT and the Communist Party, outflanked on every side, announced any idea while pretending to stiffen their demands. Segui declared that his dossiers were ready for eventual negotiations. For the unions, the only use of all revolutionary strength of the proletariat was to make themselves presentable in the eyes of an effectively dispossessed manager and practically non-existent government. The same comedy was being played out at the political level. On May 22nd, the Union of the motion of censure was defeated amidst general indifference. There was more going on in the factories and streets than in all the meetings of Parliament and the parties. The CGT called for a day of demands on Friday, 24th. But in the meantime, the attempt to expel Cohn-Bendit from the country was to struggle back into the streets. A protest demonstration was improvised to prepare for the one on Friday. The CGT parade, which began at 2 p.m., was concluded in calm by a particularly senile broadcast by de Gaulle. Nonetheless, at the same time, thousands of demonstrators had decided to defy both the police and the student monitors. The massive participation of workers in the demonstration condemned by the CP and the CGT showed negatively to what extent those two organizations could offer only the spectacle of restraint which no longer belonged to them. In the same way, the leader of the March 22nd movement was able, by enforced absence, to start an agitation that would have been unable to restrain. Some 30,000 demonstrators had gathered between Gare de Lyon and the Bastille. They set off to march to the Hotel de Ville, but the police obviously had already blocked off all exits. The first barricade went up immediately. It was a signal for a serious confrontation that went on until dawn. Some of the demonstrators were able to break through the stock exchange and sack it. The fire, which would have fulfilled the dreams of generations of revolutionaries, did only superficial damage to the temple of capital. Several groups had spread out into areas around the stock exchange, the Halles, and the Bastille, and were moving towards Machon. Others had made the left bank and were holding the left Latin Quarter in Saint-Germain-des-Prés before moving into the direction of Denfert-Rochereau. The violence reached its peak. As long as it seeked to be a monopoly of students, it had become the privilege of the proletariat. The police stations at Odeon and in the Rue Beaubourg were enthusiastically sacked. Before the eyes of the impotent police, 2 paddy wagons and a police car were fired with Molotov cocktails in front of the Pantheon police station. At the same time, several thousand rioters in Lyon were fighting the police, coming one commissar, crushing one commissioner on the runaway truck loaded with stones, surpassing their Parisian comrades by organizing the looting of the department store. There were battles at Bordeaux, where the police retreated, in Nantes, and even in Strasbourg. Thus, the workers ended their struggle, not only against their unions, but moreover in sympathy with a movement of students, and better still, thugs and vandals defending absolutely scandalous slogans ranging from "I come in the paving stones" to "Never work." None of the workers who left the factories to find the revolutionaries and work out a basis of agreement with them ever expressed any reservations about this extreme aspect of the movement. Quite the contrary, the workers didn't hesitate to build barricades, sack police stations, burn cars, and turn the Boulevard Saint-Michel into a vast garden side by side with those Fouché and the so-called Communist Party would the following day called the scum. On the 25th, the government and the bureaucratic organization made a joint response to this insurrectionary bravery, which made them tremble. Their responses were complementary. Both of them called for a ban on demonstrations for immediate negotiations. Each of them made a decision that the other had hoped for. And limit to the revolutionary crisis. The agitation movement, which had taken over key sectors of the economy, very rapidly reached every sector of social life, attracting all the control points of capitalism and bureaucracy. The fact that the strike had now extended to activities that had always escaped subversion in the past radically affirmed two of the oldest assertions of situation analysis. But the increasing modernization of capitalism brings with the proletarian nation of an ever-increasing part of the population, and that as the world of commodities extends its power to all aspects of life, it produces everywhere an extension and deepening of the forces that negate it. The violence of the negative was such that it not only brought the reserves into battle side by side with the shock troops, but also allowed the rabble whose task it was to reinforce the positivity of the dominant world to permit themselves kind of opposition. Thus, the parallel development of rift struggles and the caricature was seen at every level and every moment. The action, at least to the students in the universities and the streets, was extended from the start to the students in the universities to the high schools. Despite some student unionism illusions in the high school action committee, the high school students proved by their fighting abilities and their consciousness that they presage not so much the future generation of students as the great figures of the university itself. For more than the university professors, the high school teachers knew how to learn from their students. They overwhelmingly supported the strike, despite the very firm position taken by the school officials. By occupying their workplaces, the employees of banks, insurance companies, and department stores had simultaneously protested against the proletarian conditions and against the system of servitude, which made everyone a slave of the system. In the same way, the strikers of the ORTF, despite a belief in objective news, vaguely perceived their reification and grasped the fundamentally perverted character of all communication in which hierarchy is present. The wave of solidarity was swept up the exploited, and their enthusiasm knew no bounds. The students at the current Conservatory of Dramatic Arts took over the buildings and participated massively in the most dynamic phases of the movement. Those in the Conservatory of Music issued a tract calling for a wild and ephemeral music and announced that our demands be accepted within a given time or revolution will follow. They rediscovered by the Congolese talent that the Lumumbis and Mulatis had popularized at the very moment when the working class of the industrialized countries were beginning to experiment with the possibilities of their own independence, and which expresses so well what all power fears, the naive spontaneity of people awakening to political consciousness. In the same way, the catchphrase, "We all German Jews," ridiculous in itself, took on truly disturbing significance in the mouths of Arabs at the Bastille who were chanting it on the 24th, because every one of them was thinking that it would be necessary to avenge the massacre of October 1961, that no diversion on the theme of Arab-Israeli war will prevent it.